Hello once again, it's Matthew from MatthewNorthmusic here. Thank you for watching my latest video, and as ever, if you do like the content that I make, be it about music, electronics or something in between, then please think about hitting the subscribe button. It really does help the channel, and if you hit the little bell icon, then you'll be notified of the next video that gets released. And if you like the video, please give us a like. And also, if you're on social media, please think about following my Facebook page, which is the same title as this video, MatthewNorthmusic. Anyway, today we are talking about my favourite Pink Floyd album. And my favourite Pink Floyd album is this one, Atom Heart Mother. Now, this album came out 2 years before I was born. And to many, it's a very odd record because it's not conventional songs. Well, there are some conventional songs on it, but in essence, it has two very long pieces of music. The title track on side one, and then a piece called Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast on side two. And sandwiched in between that are three songs that were all written by the three main songwriters of the band, being a Roger Waters song, a Richard Wright song, and a David Gilmour song. Now, I first heard this album in about 1985. I bought a copy of it brand new from Tops Records in Newton Abbot, where I bought many of my records when I was younger. And I was completely transfixed on it from the first listen. Now, why did I buy this album before I bought Animals, or I think I may have even had this before I actually owned a copy of Dark Side of the Moon? Well, it was the cover. It was such a bonkers sleeve design. I thought, well, I've got to buy the one with the cow on the cover. And, you know, if you look at the sleeve, you've got one cow on the front and three cows on the back. Is it significant of it? Who knows? Could it be you only have one leader and you have three backing musicians? Could that be Roger Waters? And could that be David Gilmour, Nick Mason and Richard Wright? That's just a made-up theory that I've just thought of. But you never know. People might think that. And there's the inside of the cover with a very grainy, almost Anton Corbijn-like photograph of more cows in a field with the track listings. But this album, unlike previous Pink Floyd albums, it has no title written on the sleeve, nothing, just a picture of a cow. And that's quite significant because the previous studio album to this was the More soundtrack, which had the band name on the front. The album that came after that was Ummagumma, which does say Pink Floyd on the front, and it does have the track listings and things on the back, but this was the first one that had nothing written on it. And that would follow on with Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, and it was only by Animals that we started having, you know, track listings and things on the back. The Wall didn't have any writing on the cover, front and back, other than a sticker that was on the front. And then it was the Final Cut, and then things became more conventional. I think Obscured by Clouds was the only kind of odd one to this. Oh, and of course Medal. Yeah, Medal didn't have any writing on the front or back either. So yeah, you know, it was the cover. That's why it grabbed me. But why do I like this album? Well, I think it's because I've always had a love of different types of music. I've always loved rock music. I've always basically loved jazz since I was in single digits. And this is quite a good mashup of the two because you've got brass instruments on it, although you could say playing in a more classical style than a jazz style, but it's still those instruments. And even in today's world, a lot of people don't like hearing that kind of sound. They don't like hearing dissonance and discordance. And this album was the first album that really got me into music that has dissonance and discordance. And I think that's why I naturally fell in love with the more avant-garde form of jazz, as in, you know, I'm more likely to listen to, you know, Carla Bley, for example, rather than, I don't know, Grover Washington Jr. or something. And obviously, the king of that type of jazz, in my view, is obviously going to be Mike Westbrook. But no, this album has all those. So it starts with those, the sort of long drone, and then you've got these discordant brass parts in the middle, and that builds up into a great rock riff. Chord sequence, if you like. It's not really a riff, it's more a chord sequence, but it just builds up, goes into that. And that to me is what I consider great writing to be, to have these different things that go through. And you know, the album starts with that, it then goes into this sort of melodic quiet section with the cello, and then it kind of builds up again, and then it goes into like a funky blues section, and then, like a lot of classical pieces, bits then just repeat as it goes on. And yeah, I just love that piece. But this isn't an album about an album of just one side, because then on side 2 you start off with Roger Waters' Fat Old Son. Well, that song to me says this is what Roger Waters is going to do for the rest of his life, because that style of songwriting, the sort of the lyrics, that goes right through Roger's solo work. It's there in The Wall, it's there in The Final Cut, it's there in Amused to Death, it's there in the stuff that he's doing now. You know, you listen to like The Bar, the new piece that he's been touring, and you know, part of that again has that echoes back to this one sort of 5-minute song from 1970. Then the next song is Richard Wright's Summer 68, which is, you know, a pastoral kind of almost sort of folky song when it starts. And then it's got this great jazzy piano line that comes in, and then with more brass going over the top. So, you know, in fact, that's the only other song I think on the album with brass on it. And, you know, it's a great track, and it's certainly probably my favourite Richard Wright penned song that he ever brought to the table. And then we've got David Gilmour's Fat Old Son, which is an absolutely superb song. And it's one of those songs, I'm so glad that David did it in his latter tours, and particularly when he did that really long version that I think, you know, he's just terrific. And then Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast. Well, a lot of people think it's just a filler or a throwaway track, or it's just a bit of messing about. But I think it certainly is a piece that, you know, it's quite minimal in places. But then I think that's kind of the character of the band. And I think that it could have developed more. And if you listen to the live recording of it that was done at Sheffield City Hall in December 1970, that goes on for nearly half an hour. And I'd love to have seen film of that, but of course it was never filmed. But again, they expand on it, and it is a conceptual piece. And it would have, I think had there not been the restraints of vinyl, I think that piece would have been another 15-20 minute piece, and I think they just chopped it down to fit on the end of the record. Because as it is, at the time this was released, I think as far as single disc albums are concerned, I think this was Pink Floyd's longest album at the time. And I think it's possibly longer than Dark Side, but I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, that's kind of what I love about this album. I love the fact they took risks with it. And I think they probably took more risks on this than any other record that they ever made, because of the fact the title track is one side of an album. It's completely instrumental, and a lot of the key instruments on it are not rock and roll instruments. Anyway, so how many copies of this do I own in my collection? Well, I own this one. This is a first pressing, and yeah, you can't see it through the inner sleeve, but it's a non-boxed EMI label, and it's in reasonably good condition. Alas, I don't have the copy that I bought in 1985 when I was 12/13. I wish I did. If I had that, I probably wouldn't have any others. This copy here is a quadraphonic copy. It's got the SQ logo in the corner, and it's a boxed EMI, and yeah, it's a UK quadraphonic. I think there was an American one as well. There probably was in other countries. And then on other formats, well, this CD is the CD that I bought in Tor Records in Torquay, which was owned by some good friends of mine, Roger and Karen. And when I was at college for 3 years, I pretty much went in that shop every day. And yeah, I bought stuff all the time. So that's the CD version that I've always had. And I also have a cassette version. Now this is, I think this is a mid-70s cassette because it has white labels. I think the early ones were green. Not 100% sure. But what's interesting about this album is that it's got a weird track listing, because what they've actually done is, I don't know if you can see, but they've added the track If to the end of side 1. They then start side 2 with Summer 68, so that follows on from the track listing. But then we get Fat Old Son, so yeah, that carries on. But then we get If again, so If is on this album twice. And then we've got Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast at the end. So I always found that a bit odd that If is on the cassette twice, but they obviously did it because they were absolutely obsessed in those days about having continuous music on both sides of the cassette. So I suppose by adding If on the side A, it then balances up the tape running time, but otherwise it would have made side 2 longer than side A. And I don't think they liked having you playing the cassette and you get to the end of side A and then you've got to fast forward it to go to the beginning of side B. But that's the cassette. Now, the latest version that I've acquired is turned up in the post, and it's in a nice size box, and it's this. Now this is a release. I think this came out originally about 3 or 4 years ago in Japan only, but they then released it in the UK, and this was quite expensive. I think this was round about £50, and this has turned up on Amazon for £22.99. In fact, it's gone down. As of the time of this video, it was £21.49. But I think it's a third-party seller selling it. So I'm not, you know, I don't think it's a counterfeit or anything. I think it is the genuine product. And this is like a deluxe edition. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to unwrap it and we'll have a look at what you get inside. So just for a change then, I'm actually using my old piano stool as a background rather than my my sofa, which I normally use. But this is it. And we've got a hype sticker here that's giving you some information about the album. And we've got 2 obby strips. I think they're called obby strips on the side. And if we turn over, we've got the back cover of the album. And we've got some writing up here. Now, I'm not sure if this is on the cellophane or on the actual... No, it's actually on the sleeve. So the thing with these cellophane sleeves is that you've got this horrible gummy glue on here. Now, what I tend to do is once I've taken this out, I get some isopropanol alcohol and I clean all the gummy glue off so that there's nothing sticky on it. But for now, I'm going to try and get it out without the gummy glue touching the actual cover. So if I pull it back like this, so I do want to keep the plastic because it's got the hype sticker on it, and it, you know, it just keeps everything nice. So let's pull that off. Success. So this is what we have. Now, if I turn this over, we can see this is actually just I think this is just a piece of paper, or is this the back of a booklet? No, it's just a piece of paper. So that's our piece of paper from the back of the sleeve. So we'll move that to one side. And we'll go, I think we'll start from the front. So this is our cover, and if we open it up, we can see it looks very much like the British album. It's got the same artwork there, and the back cover doesn't have any writing on the back. So it's in essence the same as the UK album. In fact, even if you look at the edge, the font for the writing looks pretty much as accurate as the normal album. So we've got these two obby strips here, and inside here we should have our discs, and we do. So here's Atom Heart Mother, that's in it's got the edges cut for some reason, I don't quite know why, and there's a different picture on the back. Now why they've put a different picture of cows on the back, I don't know. I would have thought it would have been more sensible to have the original, but there you go. And this is our CD, Pink Floyd records. Let's have a look at the disc. It says disc 1, and if we look on the back side, it's got AHM something on there. Where's it manufactured? Manufactured by Optimal in Germany. So is it Germany or GmbH? It's made by Optimal anyway, and they're a very well regarded factory for manufacturing CDs and vinyl records. And it's nice that it's got a little inner sleeve. It's a shame that maybe they could have maybe had larger things that these clip to. I mean, sometimes they make them where they clip in, but even then I suppose the disc can get scratched. But the fact they're in little sleeves is very nice. Now this also comes with the reissue. This is a Blu-ray disc, and it's a Blu-ray disc of a performance of Atom Heart Mother in Japan, their first ever trip to Japan. And there's our Blu-ray disc. Again, it's weirdly, you can actually you probably can't see it on camera, but you can actually see through the discs of the label. So it's a very thin layer on the disc. And again, that's got a little little sleeve there. So we'll just pop that back in. Now about the video, it's not as exciting as you think it is. Or I certainly don't think so, because yes, it's a live recording of Atom Heart Mother in Japan. The audio is okay quality, it's not full quality. It sounds like it was recorded on a Naga or something with a single microphone, probably by the film crew that made it. But the film, you don't really see much of actual Atom Heart Mother performance. What it is, it's a montage of clips of them. There's shots them walking in and out of airports and doing press calls and things, and there is a lot of footage of them on the stage, but it's not necessarily Atom Heart Mother they're playing. They've just cobbled together whatever rushes they had, and they added the Atom Heart Mother music to it. So that's basically what it is. I certainly don't think it's an essential watch, but having looked at clips of it online, I haven't watched the Blu-ray yet, obviously, but having seen clips online, the picture quality is very, very good, and it's certainly miles ahead of the version that's on the early years box set, because that's a version of it that was taken from film, transferred to video, and then captions were added to it, and you see the sort of tearing along the edges of it, where the video, if you look at the end of video, you can see it sort of slightly distorts along the edge. So it was never that great, but the actual picture quality is very good. Now, what else do we have? Well, we've got this book. Now, I believe this is actually a reproduction program of the festival that they played in Japan. So you don't just have Pink Floyd, you have all the other artists that played. And there's any ones that we know. Buffy Sainte-Marie, somebody I met in a lobby of a hotel in Barcelona in 2012. The 1910 Fruit Gum Company. Well, that's from one extreme to another. These are obviously various Japanese jazz musicians, other Japanese acts. Again, nobody I've heard of there. But then I'm not an expert on Japanese music. The High Society Orchestra, the Light Music Society. So yeah, there's some more pictures here. And what else do we have? Well, it looks like we've got like some text about the different artists. There's a photo of Pink Floyd, so that's another outtake from the Ummagumma photo session. It would be really nice to see all of the photos from that Ummagumma session in a book, because I know there's a photo of a contact sheet from the front cover with lots of different alternative photos, and I think it would just make a really nice product. Well, it'd be really nice to have an Ummagumma box set, because all the live recordings are there somewhere, because bits leaked out about 15 years ago. Anyway, so that's that booklet, and then we've got this. What's that? It's like a bookmark, and it's in sort of Japanese on both sides. I'm guessing this is like a leaflet showing the layout of the festival. So this may well have been given to people as they enter the festival. For a 1970 festival, if that's what they were given, that's obviously very, very fancy. And oh, this must be a poster of some description. Yeah, this is a Pink Floyd poster. This actually would look quite nice if you framed it. It's you know, it's about A4-ish size, so you could easily get a frame for that. And this is probably the most interesting bits. Is we've got a booklet here for the album. Now, I haven't got an idea about whether this is the same booklet that's in the more recent reissues of the album. I'm not too clear because I don't have it, but I think it might be. I'm not sure. But it's nice that it's got the lyrics inside, because, you know, as we know, lyrics are a little bit of a sore point with Pink Floyd, because obviously having the lyrics and background notes and things on the Animals box set was what caused problems with that release. Anyway, we now got a book here about the festival, about the Japanese festival, and if we look, we've got a photo there. We've got some more pictures of Pink Floyd. I think these might be stills taken from the film, actually, because I do kind of recognise them. But then there's a photo from the press conference, and yeah, these are stills from the video of the press conferences in the film. So it's a nice mixture of photographs and photographs of the venue. I mean, if you look at the stage there, I mean, it's all a bit ramshackle and sort of thrown together. But I mean, it was 1970, and you know, things changed very quickly, because if you think that it was only in 1966 that the Beatles played Candlestick Park, and that last Beatles tour, very few of the concerts even then still had proper PA systems, and then 3 years later we had Woodstock. So here's some more pictures of the gear of the band. There's David Gilmour changing his strings, guitar cases there, and that's a photo from the performance. So yeah, it's actually a really good photo book. You know, to have all of this stuff from just one gig all in, and they've obviously managed to locate as many photos as possible. And you know, some of these would have been taken by professional photographers, but it's quite possible some of these were also taken by people in the audience with their just normal cameras. And then here, I guess this is them leaving, and these are, you know, much better quality because they're, you know, sharper pictures, but then it's daylight, so it probably would be. But yeah, this is actually a really nicely put together photo book. So I think with this release, the photo books are really nice. I think the reproduction program is really nice. I think the poster's good. I think as a product, I think they've actually put a lot of effort into this, and I think it's a really nice thing to have. And certainly for £22, I think it's an absolute bargain. And I don't think these are going to be around for long. So if you wanted to get hold of one, then I would suggest you do it sooner rather than later. Now, as for the sound quality of the CD, I haven't listened to it yet. But what I might do is we'll have a quick look at it on the computer as a waveform. This then is the waveform for my original CD here, the one that I bought in 1990-ish, and you can see nothing hits the top at all. There's lots of dynamics. It's almost like this has come straight off the master tape and gone straight to CD. There's no limiting, there's no nothing, it's just pure sound. And I think this is one of the reasons why I've always thought this CD really, to me, sounds great. Now, if we look at the other one, the Japan one, you can see straight away the peaks go right to the top. And while there is still, you know, a fair bit of dynamics in the middle, in fact, if we compare it to the other one, I think proportionately, there's probably not a lot of difference. You know, if we look here, that middle bit there is probably, you know, a quarter of the main one. And if we look at it here, that's probably still a quarter of these peaks here. So I think what they've done is, level-wise, they've not pushed it at all. And I think basically they've normalised it as much as they possibly could. And just lifted the overall level. Now, I've not listened to this CD, so I can't tell you how it sounds tonally, but they've obviously tried to make it as loud as possible, but without affecting the overall dynamics. And this album is a very dynamic album, and you want the quiet bits to be quiet. I mean, if you look at this bit here, which is the start of the choral section, it really is quite quiet there compared to the loud bit of the previous section, and obviously it's even quieter compared to the sort of opening sort of chord riff section. So I think the sound is actually going to be pretty decent on this CD, and I don't think that, I mean, even if the very, you know, these loud bits here, they're not quite hitting the edges, whereas these bits here are, and they're going up to sort of 0 dB. But generally, if we look here, what's that saying to us? It's about 1 dB. So it's generally, they're keeping it within the sort of threshold. Now, personally, I'd have maybe preferred it if these peaks here were below that line, but you know, we're in the modern world. But it's certainly not brick-walled like you would expect it to. But you know, looking at the original here, let me just zoom out again, you know, I mean, that just looks perfect. Anyhow, I hope you like that little overview of the new Atom Heart Mother release. Well, I say new, it's not that new now. It's been out a little while. And if you fancy getting a copy, I suggest you get one, as I say, sooner rather than later. Anyway, thanks for watching the video, and I'll catch you on the next one.